Hey there, Mason Nation, and a very warm welcome to Mr. and Mrs. Donohoe and my parents as well. Welcome back, everybody, after a very, very long winter break to our new spring edition of Touch Base, which will certainly, hopefully, offer a lot more baseball news. My name is Erin Whitton.
And I'm Ryan Donohoe.
And we'll be bringing some new and enticing changes to the show in hopes of relaying more exciting content to our very loyal audiences. We're currently here mingling with the Mason students in the Johnson Center, and we're thrilled to be surrounded by the live atmosphere as well. So here on our first segment of this semester, we'll be touching all four bases, the first base being what transpired over the long winter break, the second being what we expect to see happen this coming season, third, the Hall of Fame, and the last base, the home run, our wrap-up. So let's jump right into it.
Okay, great. As you said, so very nicely and eloquently, we'll go into first base, and first base is a bit more somber news. I'm sure a lot of you know, whether it be on social media, the death of Yordano Ventura, the Dominican Republic baseball player, flamethrower for the Kansas City Royals. Very sad news, along with a few other deaths, actually tragic in baseball, with Jose Fernandez earlier this year, and the other Dominican player on that same day, I don't remember his name, that also was killed in a car accident. So our thoughts are with them and his family, and we hope that they're able to come to peace with what has happened, and no matter how difficult it may have been.
Yeah, and his blistering fastball, which averaged about 96.5 miles per hour this season, is going to be very much missed by fans of baseball. Maybe not so much the hitters that he was facing, like Manny Machado, but he will be sorely missed by the baseball community.
Definitely. Yeah, and it was weird how hard he could throw for how little he was. So it's good for people like me. Maybe one day I'll get to that. But next up, the other people who were signed in the offseason, Edwin Encarnacion, Jose Bautista, and Mark Trumbo saw decreased market demand for earnings for power bats. Jason Hamill was the best pitcher, and they got decent money, but what do you think about their signings and the rest of around the league?
So I was a little surprised that Jose Bautista went back to the Toronto Blue Jays because they'd signed Morales to play DH, and they had a pretty solid core of players just surrounding that team in the lineup. I think it was a really good move that the Cleveland Indians were able to sign Edwin Encarnacion. If you look at it, it's actually really interesting. He got a 3-year, $60+ million deal, but Hanley Ramirez 2 off seasons ago got a 4-year, $88 million deal from the Boston Red Sox. But if you look at it in perspective, Edwin Encarnacion has put up drastically better numbers than Ramirez has. So just to your point of a decreased market, it just goes to show how power bats really are not as in demand as we really thought they were.
And all of those players are also getting up in age, so you can definitely see less money for that. But once they get there, they can hopefully bring power to their position. Maybe a few of them will be DHs, and we'll see what they can do in the future.
And to your point about Jason Hamill, he is actually still a free agent. Pitched with the Cubs the last 2 seasons. He had a 3.8 ERA this season. Him, just like many of the other Chicago pitchers, drastically outpitched his actual stats. His FIP, his fielding independent pitching, was probably about 4.5, so he drastically outpitched his real stats. But he's a solid member on the pitching market. He's 34 years old, so it's really a good question where he'll actually end up going.
Yeah, we'll see. But in other news, Ian Desmond, a hometown favorite from former Washington Nationals, he signed with the Colorado Rockies. Very interesting. They did give up the 11th pick in the amateur draft in July, but I think that was a great signing. Colorado always has a great offense, but they can never get too good to help that somewhat atrocious pitching. But it's tough to pitch there. But I think that was a great signing for the Rockies, and I hope that he does well. Maybe playing first base. I don't know about that, but we'll see.
I don't know about you, Ryan, but I was actually really surprised by the signing. They gave up the 11th pick, so the first 10 in the first round are protected, and they were the first unprotected pick, and they gave it up, and I'm really surprised because usually teams like to foster a good young pipeline of talent, and that kind of just took away from their ability to draft and develop talent that's going to be premier in the future. But overall, like you said, playing at Coors Field, the altitude, he should be a really good force going from shortstop to center field and then center field to first base. It'll be interesting to see what his stats are this year.
Yeah, and I think the past couple off seasons they've really demonstrated that they're trying to win now. They haven't won much recently, so you never know, maybe they'll be able to turn it around this year. Big news, though, in the hometown for the Washington Nationals. The White Sox traded right fielder Adam Eaton to the Washington Nationals for standout prospects such as Lucas Giolito, Reynaldo Lopez, and Dane Dunning. Giolito and Lopez were big-name prospects, no doubt about it. Lucas Giolito was the #1 pitching prospect in all of baseball. Ronaldo Lopez outperformed his expectations this past season when he came up for the Washington Nationals. Played very well, and Dane Dunning was one of their first-round picks. So we'll see if that trade works out. Adam Eaton still has a few more years on his contract. Another situation I think the Nationals are trying to win now, maybe before Harper packs his bags for New York or wherever he may go. But I think it's a good signing. They needed another outfielder, and I hope that Adam Eaton is able to acclimate to the different changes and all.
Looking at it from a Nationals perspective, I think that they gave up way too much talent. The Chicago White Sox, I feel like they got a lot of really good premier talent. It's like the White Sox-Red Sox sale of Chris Sale. They got Moncada, Kopech, Basabe. I feel like the White Sox have won their 2 off-season trades that have been drastic to their organization. They still do have a really good left-hander leading their rotation in Jose Quintana. But overall, I feel like the Nationals grossly overpaid for. I mean, he's a really good right fielder. He had 18 assists last year. The guy's got a cannon. But you know what? They got a really good, controllable young player for years to come.
You know, I think I'm going to have to introduce a new segment here and give you a strike for that because there's no way. They gave up a lot. They gave up Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez, but I think that Adam Eaton will actually be a great acquisition. I think that they will finally be able to get past the first round of the playoffs with him, with that extra bat, and they needed another leadoff hitter, and Trey Turner and him will be a great combination at the top of the lineup. I also disagree with you on the Chris Sale trade. I think anytime you can add an ace, whatever you gave up, if you're trying to win now, I'd rather win a World Series now than maybe win 3 in 10 years. So I think that both of those teams are on the right track, and I think that you're wrong in that situation. But we'll go to the next point. So,
okay. So on the verge of those points, we'll be hitting second base. So we'll be talking about really what we expect to see in this upcoming season. Last year we saw a drastic increase in home runs. Early in the 2000s, you really saw teams like premier teams hit about 250 home runs per season. This last season, we saw pretty much that same amount, which was really interesting. The Blue Jays were up there, the Orioles, the Red Sox, a lot of AL East teams. So I'm expecting, I don't know about you, Ryan, but I feel like there's going to be an explosion of offense this season, especially home runs.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they could definitely do that. It's interesting, like you said, in the early 2000s when everybody was juicing left and right, syringes coming out of their arms. They're still able to match that, but hey, you never know. People are getting bigger, stronger, more efficient swings. So I think that the players will constantly be getting better, but the pitching gets better as well. So
is it a fact that they're just eating more meats and potatoes? Or
I think that that's a fact. If anybody knows Ian Desmond, you know he likes his steak, and he definitely rakes. So steak it is for any power hitter out there.
All right, and it is notable that since 1998, when all 30 teams were included in the league, 2016 had the second highest home runs per hit allowed. So that's actually a really interesting stat to look at when factoring in how we think that the upcoming season is going to, factor in. So I also have another bold statement. I think the Cubs are going to not score 800 runs this season. Okay. And if you introduce a strike on me, I'm going to smack you over the head with a bat.
I won't give you a strike there. I could almost agree with you. Yeah, I could take that. It's not a strikeable offense, but it's close. It was on the corner.
I feel like we're going to see some regression from Addison Russell, maybe their first baseman, Anthony Rizzo. Yeah. I could see Chris Bryant putting up another MVP season, but I just feel like overall their offense really outperformed. Good team nonetheless, but I don't know.
They do have guys like Jason Hayward, though, so hopefully he'll be better. And Kyle Schwarber being back, he's another bat. So you definitely have people in the reserves that they didn't have last year. But I agree that last year was pretty incredible, and to think that you're going to be much better is very optimistic.
And then another point to introduce is I also believe, I don't know about you, I think the Rockies, with the addition of Desmond, they've got a lot of really good talent on their roster. Nolan Arenado, DJ LeMahieu. I think that they're actually going to lead the league in offense this year. And I believe Toronto and Boston, Boston lost Ortiz, Toronto lost Edwin Encarnacion. I believe they're going to take steps back offensively.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you about Colorado. They're always up there in average and runs scored. Whether that be Coors Field or not is not up for debate, but we'll see. I agree that it'll be the Rockies. Not so sure about how Boston's going to do, so hopefully they're able to replace Ortiz, but maybe they won't, and they'll diminish. But we'll see.
And then this season, we'll probably see Meathead Mike Trout put up, his usual good fantasy numbers. hothead Manny Machado is going to be, swinging bats at pitchers like he did with Yordano Ventura. And then, Jose Altuve, the guy's like, 5'6", and
5'6",
talk about somebody eating their meats and
Yeah,
potatoes.
yeah,
That guy whacked like 25 home runs last year, and I don't know where that came from.
Yeah. His legs, I guess. I'm not sure.
And then, the same said for pitching. Sonny Gray, I think, is going to get a lot better this year. Clayton Kershaw is going to be Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah.
And then John Lester, he's going to lead those Cubs.
Definitely. I agree with you on most of that, except Manny Machado is a stand-up guy, but whatever. Next up, though, we'll go round for the triple here to third base, the Hall of Fame inductions in 2017. Some big names, actually a former National. Ivan Rodriguez, Jeff Bagwell, also the Astros first baseman, had almost 450 home runs with 449, close to a 300 average with 297, close to 150 OPS with 149, so, he was always on the edge, but whatever. Tim Raines, the Expos outfielder, was also another name to the Hall of Fame. He hit 294 with a 385 on base percentage for his entire career, over 800 stolen bases, very impressive. And finally, like I said, Ivan Pudge Rodriguez, the National, I think he was on the Nationals for about 2 years, most of his career with the Marlins and Tigers. He hit 296 with 311 home runs, very productive for a catcher, also great defensively, great arm, really knew how to call a game, won a World Series with the Marlins. I definitely agree with all of the inductions, and I think that the committee really did a good job, or the writers.
I think we both knew that Pudge was going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. The guy, as you said, offensively for a catcher, he put up great numbers. He was most notably known for his Texas Ranger days. His career overall, he caught 46% of stolen base thefts, which is actually remarkable when you consider league average is 29%. So that was actually pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. I did forget about the Rangers, but we don't pay attention to that. We just care about those 2 years with the Nationals, and he was good enough for us. But all right, finally, this is actually a new segment here. We're trying out some new things on Touch Base, so we'll get to it. This is called Outraged and Rampaged.
Yeah,
so
the
other
day, I have a 125 wage, and my manager, I'm working at Chuck E. Cheese's, and my manager's like, hey, I need to see some more effort. And I'm like, no, let me finish. I need to see some more effort. And I'm like, yo, I'm filling up the balloons. That's all I'm doing. So I was outraged that I'm getting paid only $1.25.
Erin, I think that you misinterpreted outraged. It's supposed to be about baseball. So I'll start it off as a demonstration. I'm actually going to talk about Bryce Harper's Twitter feed. If you all are Nationals fans, you know that he's a little controversial on Twitter. Just after the Adam Eaton trade that we had talked about, he only tweeted, wow, ... So, interpret that as you will, but I really just don't think some things like that need to be put out there on Twitter, whether you agree with the trade or not. I'm sure it would feel weird for a person like Adam Eaton seeing that, with their star player saying something like that. And then again, he actually said, there was a report saying that the Nationals were spending too much on their spring training facility, which was causing them to be reluctant to sign players like Matt Wieters and Greg Holland, to which he tweeted, Matt Wieters greater than Greg Holland, or Matt Wieters and Greg Holland greater than team store, which I may agree with, and it is true, but I don't think things like that need to be put out on the Twitter sphere. But that's what you get with a player who's as polarizing as Bryce Harper.
I'm going to have to give you a strike for that, Ryan. You know what? We have our 27 amendments for a reason. Bryce Harper using his First Amendment. You know what? Well, he can go out and say whatever he wants on Twitter.
The one thing I would say, I would agree, but if you want to say whatever you want, you may be getting a few millions off that likely $400 million deal. So we'll see. You don't want to cause separations in the locker room is what I think, but he's a former MVP, so he has a lot of leeway.
And I, on the other hand, am outraged and rampaging at Red Sox left-hander Fernando Abad. Fernando, sit down and think to yourself about what I'm about to say. Fernando Abad is likely to snap the Red Sox streak of avoiding arbitration with all of their players since 2002. He's asking for $2.7 million from the Red Sox. The Red Sox are countering with $2 million. It's a $700,000 difference. People like us, that sounds like a lot, but for baseball players, that's chump change. Fernando, you need to really sit in a room, sit down on a chair, and just think to yourself what you're doing here, because he could have been non-tendered in the offseason. And the Red Sox went ahead and they gave him a job and they kept him with the Red Sox. He put up a 6.39 ERA this year, 2 losses, 3 blown saves. Not only am I giving you a strike, I'm giving Fernando a strike. And Fernando, you struck out on this one. You didn't even tip it into the mitt. You struck out.
I don't know. I mean, 6.4 ERA, you got a lot of leverage when you're talking about 700,000. So I would think that the Boston would want that 7 ERA next year, and they'll maybe give him their money. But anyways, that's enough for today. Time for our home run and get some confetti going on in here.
You'll pop the champagne,
yeah,
right?
The fun fact actually today is the first World Series ever played was in 1903 between Pittsburgh and Boston. And interestingly enough, it was a 9-game series.
Yes. 9-game series.
9 games, not 7.
I would have never known that if you wouldn't
5.
have said it.
It was 9 games. But that is all for our segment of Touch Base. I want to thank you all for tuning in. My name is Ryan Donohoe.
And I'm Erin Whitton.
And we will see you next time.